Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being the show where we're talking about TV shows that are of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season finale of Falling Water. A great season finale. A lot of stuff went down that we're going to have to kind of break down bit by bit. So obviously, all of this is, obviously drawing Ginsberg out, using Tess as bait. And I love the whole situation of, like, obviously they don't want to get Tess too involved because it's like, it's like if anything happens to you, there's a whole James situation. So, like, no, like, it's like we put ourselves out there to be sacrificed, but it's like, we don't want you to do that. And they're like, oh, we need to do anything. We could get, Woody can handle all the changes and stuff like that. He said, yeah, because if there are any changes, they'll just, it's because they know Woody's a coward or that he's greedy and yada, yada, yada. And Woody's like, well, thanks, guys, for all that positive words they had to say about him. You kind of feel bad for Woody. It's like, it's kind of true, but at the same time, I really appreciated that. But, so much. Okay, first of all, getting into Ginsberg himself, took us by surprise because for multiple reasons. One, I guess the whole aspect, because I was wondering about that. I was like, oh, that's because he looked so young. And I was like, oh, that was supposed to be 30 years ago. So I was like, oh, so is he like in a coma or something? That was kind of my thoughts last episode. But it seems like he is just as old in the real world. It's just like he makes himself younger in the dream world. I mean, I guess the dream world is kind of however you want to build it. Like, I mean, to be fair, like, because the only person we've ever seen do it so far is the Shadow Man, but he can change his appearance. So, Ginsberg can do that too. I guess that's going to be I guess changing your appearance is kind of kids level stuff or something, or maybe teenage level dreaming that maybe it's something only certain people had the affinity for. Maybe it kind of fits more with Thomas because of what his ability is, kind of manifesting your fears and stuff like that. And so maybe because Ginsberg, I don't know, like I said, because so far they're the only two that have done something like that. So that was kind of an interesting thing, because even Bill and Jess were like, wait, that's him. It's like, whoa, but you look so much younger. So I guess that, like I said, because you would think with the ability to kind of shape your dreams and stuff like that, even with being as powerful as dreamers are, I think there's still even limits that each individual dreamer can do, except for like the more powerful ones. In his case, he has this sick ability where basically he can put you in a trance, like even while awake. It's kind of like Woody's ability where like Woody can pull you into the dream world even when you're awake and he's awake. It seems his is kind of like he puts you almost in like this sleep, like zombie-like trance where it's like he'll put you to sleep, but he'll like your body will still kind of act on command to him. So it's like, I guess he kind of imposes his will on you and kind of shuts your consciousness down. I don't know. It's very interesting. I didn't expect things to kind of go as sideways as they did. It took me by surprise when it was kind of done like that, because I was like, oh wow, he's really getting taken down this easily. Oh, they're about to arrest him. I was like, I figured, he'd find some loophole and get himself and Jeremy released. But it's like, no, he handled that by himself. That was kind of an interesting thing. Also because like there's the whole Taylor Bennett side of things, which obviously Emily kind of distances herself from her dad. God, there's just so much to cover. Okay. That kind of, I thought was kind of interesting. And in the moment, like, Emily was like, no, I'm not going near you. I lost a scholarship and everything. And basically all the stuff that Taka kind of got to her about in her dream, and just all of the stuff about her dad and just everything. She just kind of lost faith in him. It's just like, I think what Taka did, showing her all that, like, subconsciously put doubt in her mind about her dad, and it just manifested and kind of grew over the course of the time, over the course of, those, days or whatever. But nevertheless, to get his revenge, he decides to go after Bennett, because it's like in his mind, it's like, oh, Bennett's the one. She's at fault for all of this. Because I mean, I like what they did too with the lady who frees him, which is Katrina, which we'll kind of get to that in a minute. But it's like, I like, because from the very beginning you can tell she was manipulated, because it's like, no, Thomas, you're not stupid. You're so gifted. You're so talented. But it's like, oh, what is Bennett? She doesn't respect you. It's just like, oh, like she doesn't let you in on a plan and everything. She treats you like you're stupid. Like, because we already know that that's Thomas's weakness. It's kind of his, like, I don't know, I guess you'd say arguably his ego. Is just like when his ego takes a blow, that's when he kind of like, because he feels like, oh, it's all about respect and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, does Bennett really respect you? And so she knew exactly what buttons to push and kind of set him off. And he tries to go after Bennett first, but Bennett's like, keeps calm under pressure. It's like, oh, you're trying to come after me? It's like, oh, you think losing your scholarship is the worst? Like, oh, if you do this, like so much worse could happen to Emily, which, hey, you look at Hold's situation and it's like, you might not want to mess with her. So it's like, oh, everything's settled. But then he finds another way around, because basically it seems like he works through the sewer system, and he goes after one of her bodyguards, Simon, and holy crap, that is the bloodiest things I've ever gotten in this show. Is that because there was nothing like that in season 1 that got that blood. I mean, arguably, I guess it was like Burton getting stabbed, but that was about it. But literally, he stabs Bennett twice and then stabs her in her eye. I was like, oh my god, blood splattered from her eye and landed on her. I was like, that's so brutal. And then Simon ended up was precededly killed by Brutus. I was like, that's rough. Especially with everything that went down with Ginsburg. It's like Taylor was their only lead. But it seems like from the very beginning, they were going to wipe Bennett out from the beginning. Probably even if things did work out with this whole test situation, they were probably going to kill her anyway. Because like I said, they set it up like that. So, and the way their last conversation, it seemed like he was kind of cutting ties with Bennett anyway. Because she's like, oh, I can help you with the whole test deal. Like, when you try to come back for it. He's like, no, well, I'll get someone else to do it. She's like, oh, that's how you want it. And I was like, he wants you out of the picture. And it's like, so it seems like they were already setting the whole like Shadow Man situation up, like, because especially when they went out of the way to let him know, it's like, oh yeah, the one behind all of this, like the one you're working for, you never met him, but it's like, it's Taylor Bennett. So, which kind of sucks because like the whole point was to try and take her down, which is like, it kind of shows you that even in this grand scheme of things, even Taylor herself was kind of a pawn. Like I just wasn't expecting her to like be taken out of the picture like that. I was like, that sucks, dude. And like I said, in such a brutal way too. And and I like what they did too is, like with this, their villain is still around. It's like, objectively, there wasn't really a like concrete villain in season 1. I mean, there's all these different villains, all these players on the board, but in this season we have a concrete villain that's being Shadow Man. Obviously Ginsburg is up there too, but it's like a concrete seasonal enemy, and it seems like he's still kind of on the loose. So I'm curious what happens with that, because it seemed like they were setting it up so it's like, because they were making it seem like essentially, I knew Katrina, like, from the beginning when she pops up, like, you work for Ginsburg, don't you? And it's like, turns out, yeah, she does. So it's like, he's collecting dreamers and stuff like that. It seems like it's kind of going by the logic of what they were trying to do in season 1, basically, like the whole Topeka situation of like, using James as a means of creating kind of a utopia in the dream world. Like, well, not just in the dream world, but a utopia in general. It seems like that's kind of what they want to do, because basically Trina's like, oh, we want to take all these powerful dreamers and make a better world. But it's like, we want you to be a part of it, which is like, oh, she's sad that that he wouldn't be a part, but it's like, no, like, he's just a weapon to you. Like I said, he's easy to manipulate because you know what buttons to push, because he is kind of an idiot. But the point is, I think that they have no, like, they're used for Thomas, one of those situations like, oh, we'll build this utopia and stuff. You, Thomas, you'll be our weapon. You'll be the one to kind of carve the pathway forward for it. But that's all you are. You're just a tool. Like, because he didn't go with them. He's still in New York. So kind of leaving the city kind of under his terror. And the fact of the matter is, I don't know if Ginsburg is giving him orders, which I assume that is the case, but probably after cutting his leash free from Taylor, now he's going to go a little crazy, because now, like, he has no one telling him what to do. Probably all of that kind of heightened the darkness inside of him, so he's probably willing to cross whatever line he wants to even further now, so. Which means, I mean, there's still that, because even Taka and, Alex couldn't do anything to him at the beginning of the season, because it's like, I mean, at the beginning of the episode, because it's like, there's nothing you can do. There's no evidence to tie him, because at the same time, it's like, Taylor was the only connection you could use to potentially lock him up for, but like, now that she's gone, there's no like one that can tie him to all the things, which does still beg the question, like, what exactly was it Bennett was doing? Like, we know she was trafficking dreamers, but obviously it seems like at the very least it was for Ginsburg. At the very least is what it seems like. Maybe it's just kind of for anyone that wants dreamers, but I'd assume Ginsburg, because it seems like he's the one that's kind of and potentially collecting a lot of dreamers. Maybe everything up to this point has always been about Ginsburg. Even stuff in season 1, trying to sell off James and everything, even that was just, because it seems like they were such separate things necessarily. Like, even the firm situation in season 1, kind of the same in this situation, and also Taylor. It seemed like those were two separate things, but maybe they were all things under the same umbrella of Ginsburg, that everything was ultimately like, oh, they're collecting and exchanging, dreamers to ultimately go to Ginsburg, or maybe it was for other people, because it seemed like it was more for like a black market for selling them to anybody. But like I said, maybe it all stems to Ginsburg, because we know that she was kind of like, setting everything up from a mirror standpoint, which is a storyline we never got back to about the mayor. Like, we know, like, she dropped Whitaker, and it's like, where things stood for Harding. I don't know if she won. That was something that was never really brought up. So maybe in the future that could be potentially something that comes up. But for now, it just kind of up. The thing is, like, was she setting stuff in motion for Ginsburg, or like obviously it was beneficial to herself all the time and effort. It's like, oh yeah, this way she has people that she can kind of control. So I mean that's one part, but I feel like, is there a bigger part to this? Was it serving a greater purpose of putting certain people in powerful positions so it make this whole trafficking thing a lot easier to cut through a lot of red tape? They won't have to, like, they have a lot more I guess contingencies would be the best way. Like certain things kind of like, so it's like, oh, they have a lot more routes they can take things through, like this whole human trafficking thing. I don't know. And going back to Katrina herself, it's a situation like the fact is that she is alive, because it is what I thought it was. The show was basically setting it up so that Bill, he thought his sister had died in the real world, yes, but he thought maybe she existed somewhere in a dreamscape. That's what kind of kept him keep going and searching for her. But at the end he's kind of wondering, like, okay, she came to him in a dream. It's kind of like, okay, you are dead, and then I'm a bad dreamer. I guess it's just kind of more insult than injury. Not unless that really was his sister, just because they found out that Bill was connected to all this. Maybe Taylor ended up telling Ginsburg or whatever, and so it's like Katrina was used to kind of shut Bill down or something like that. I don't know. But it does beg the question, like, what is up with her? I mean, to be fair, there's the whole situation around Tess and everything, her being impregnated and everything. So they can do all that. Obviously, they could probably fake Bill's sister's death, like, not less, probably paid off the right people to make it seem like. Because the question is, like, did Bill ever see her body? Was it something he saw from far away or up close? Questions like that have to be asked for her to actually be alive this entire time he's been looking for. Because that says a lot too, because like someone like Bill with all his resources, he couldn't find her. To be fair, he's been looking in a dreamscape. I mean, she is a dreamer too, so I don't know. I mean, it seems like she's probably a powerful dreamer, because it seemed like that was something only she had. Like Bill wasn't the powerful dreamer. He just doesn't have the skills. Like I said, it's kind of interesting because season 1 kind of made it seem like he potentially might be, but maybe that's just kind of like, I don't know, maybe that'd be something, maybe that's something they kind of retcon from like season 1 to season 2, but nevertheless. Which, really quickly about Bill, I appreciate the conversation with James. It's like, oh, hey, James, do you remember? He's like, yeah, you're the dude that tried to kidnap me and take me away from my mom. He's like, oh, yeah, I do apologize about that. I should have handled that better. It was like, no. The truth be told is I was trying to protect you. And James was like, I just love it. And even during that whole conversation, you see Tess kind of smiling a little bit, like, hey, he's telling it like it is. And I did also appreciate him hugging Burton and be like, I love you. And it's like, oh, because it's like Burton's kind of in that dad role. But at the same time, it's something I don't even think I brought up this season. I was like, well, obviously, like, James and Burton also have a big connection too, because it's like, Burton was the one who saved him. He's the one that kind of set everything in motion by saving him near the end of season 1. That was kind of Burton. So obviously they had a special connection to him. Probably adds even more to it when there's like, oh, there's a whole Tess and Burton situation. So that probably makes it even more of a thing in his, with both of them being kind of a couple. Whether James really knows about it or not, that's one thing. I'm curious to see how powerful James is, because it seemed like they might have nullified his powers, because obviously last season he was reversing time, but to be fair, that was probably more like an Inception thing of like, oh, you go deeper into the dream. No, I don't know. There wasn't, because it's hard to say, because a lot of stuff, especially at the end of season 1, you could make the argument that was him manifesting his powers in the real world, but it could be just like, oh, everyone's in a dream world and he just kept rewinding the dream world, kind of like an Inception thing where you got to go deeper and deeper within the dream. It seems like that's most likely the case, but still, not most likely the case. It definitely was, but it's just like, how did things kind of end up the way they did in the real world? Nevertheless, it's kind of confusing when you think about it too much, which is what I'm exactly doing. So I do apologize. So, but because they haven't really shown him doing like the big thing. I mean, to be fair, I guess it's supposed to represent the fact is, under those circumstances, he felt the need to draw out his powers, but maybe like Tess is kind of like, no, you don't need to. I mean, especially because they're setting it up so that Tess is the one that's kind of drawing out her powers, because she seems like she's gotten a lot more power, especially at the end. Like she ends up shouting and she ends up turning Charlotte to like ice or crystal, and she shatters. And it's like storming inside of the dream and everything. So it's like she's definitely getting more and more powerful. Because what James is capable of is probably just a mirror reflection of what she's capable of, so it's just kind of an interesting development seeing that, because I think that's something going forward we could potentially see like everyone's abilities. Like, oh, we got a little taste. Like they've kind of expanded upon all the different abilities that the dreamers have. Like it's just like they set it up in one, but I feel like they elaborated a little bit more on the different abilities this season and beyond. It could be like, oh, taking those, what we elaborated on and expanding upon it by increasing their abilities and what they're able to potentially do in this, the dream world. So that'd be something interesting I'd like to see. It's kind of interesting too at the end where he because it seems like Ginsburg's ability can also work in a dream world too. Like he kind of put Tess to sleep with his power too, and so she ends up kind of caught in between that waking and dream world, I guess, when they kind of fall in the water, because she wakes up and she's in the water or whatever. So not unless it is like an Inception thing where it's like, oh, you're in the dream world, but he pushes her even deeper in the dream world where it's kind of like hard to come back from. So I'm sure that's cool what that could be representing, but nevertheless, it's just kind of like a woke. Like season 1 ended off a little bit more happier. There was more happiness with that, but it's like a lot of stuff is unresolved. Like the whole Sabine situation is unresolved because like the Shadow Man's still out there, and then like the fact is that Ginsburg has Taka, Woody, and Burton. And be fair, we see that he has 2 dreamers on his side, plus being as powerful as he is. Well, potentially 3 if you count Shadow Man, but there's no telling how much of an army he has at his disposal with all this. They never went through it, but obviously everything's hinting to him being Tess's dad, because there's a whole dream she had at the beginning, which was Charlotte and him talking, which was like, huh? Because Ginsburg's like, oh, isn't she your mother? It's like, no, she isn't her biological mother, but it seems like he is her dad. But it's like, how did that come about? Is that not even true? Is Ginsburg not even her dad? Is it like, were both of them people that took her? Because the question is, why was she sent to a Skyton with Charlotte then? I mean, to be fair, Ginsburg and Charlotte had a relationship, and it's like, oh, I wanted to give you a child that we couldn't have before. But I guess because he wanted to stay hidden for whatever, because he's probably hiding from someone. Maybe there's another group out there that he's hiding from. Maybe he's a wanted guy. Like, I don't think they really went into details about like why he potentially would fake his death. So that's still kind of an open mystery. But maybe because of that, that's why he left Tess with Charlotte, because it's like, well, he couldn't be out in the open. So, I mean, where's he been this entire time? Obviously working through the shadows, but, where exactly? So, and like I said, it might be what I was thinking before, that a Skype was also meant to be a place where Tess is supposed to develop her abilities. That might have been potentially what that was, setting up to. But I don't know if it was necessarily a place she was necessarily, developing her abilities or not. I don't know. It seemed like it was more so like Charlotte watches over her until, like, Ginsburg deems it necessary and time to get her, because the whole question is like, why now? Like, now, of any point in time, why now? Like, is it because their ambitions are that far in reach, or do they feel like Tess is finally at the point, James' abilities have developed enough, and so has Tess's, to the point like we're ready to do what we need, so. Like I said, a great season finale. At the time we recorded this, I do not know if the show is being renewed for a 3rd season. I really hope so. Especially with a lot of stuff that they've set up. Like, a lot of this is left open-ended, because like there's still a lot of stuff that wasn't necessarily resolved this season that we need to kind of deal with. Plus a Ginsburg situation, so I'm very curious to see what they could do in season 3. Like I said, like, they could probably build upon it. Like I said, like, because aesthetically, this second season is very different. Like, I marked it at the beginning of the season, but this second season was like very different from the first season from an aesthetic point of view. Plus, like I said, a lot of storylines, it seems like they potentially dropped or changed certain things or not really elaborated on. So I'm curious to see what they would do in season 3. Like, will they keep this exact aesthetic, or would the aesthetic kind of change with the fact is that, like, oh, the dreamers are getting more powerful and their abilities are developing, kind of like I was getting to earlier, so I'd like to see all of this continue in a 3rd season. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good